News is New Orleans' most watched news. Fox 8 Local First starts now.
You feel like you were talking to somebody with a very old and very mature soul.
The 12-year-old boy hit by an ice cream truck in Kenner fights for his life tonight at Children's Hospital. Good evening, I'm Meg Gatto.
And I'm Lee Zurich. The boy's condition worsened days after the ice cream truck barreled into his home on Saturday afternoon.
As Maddie Kurth reports, Adrian Fajardo's family is hoping for a miracle as they await final test results on his brain activity.
The sound that sends children running to the street for a treat. Became a sound of horror for the Fajardo family. 12-year-old Adrian Fajardo plowed into by an ice cream truck that came speeding into his bedroom Saturday afternoon, leaving him trapped under the rubble for first responders to find.
We're still hoping for a miracle.
Wednesday afternoon, the boy's family says they got devastating news from doctors at Children's Hospital.
Well, they're going to do, I think, the last test, and then they were going to decide when they're going to actually inform us officially that he's brain dead.
Kenner police booked 71-year-old Mekhl Mansour with negligent injuring and reckless operation of a vehicle. If the boy dies, those charges could be upgraded.
We're not thinking about anything but get Adrian back. And then beyond that, will be the authorities' responsibility to address this issue. And then we believe in God. We believe in God, we're believers, and we believe that justice will be done either way or another way.
We know where he's going. His heart is for him. His soul is part of his life.
The Fajardos are leaning on their faith, with family pastor Luis Berhorst leading each step of the way.
Spanish community is very close, is very unique, and they always support one another.
Relatives say Adrian is a Superman-loving, soccer-playing, brilliant mind.
He was really, really, really good playing soccer. So we will remember him as an amazing, amazing kid.
The family says it took around 40 minutes for first responders to pull the boy from the wreckage. His uncle asked doctors if a faster response would have made a difference in his recovery.
And they say that by the time the impact, this bus impact Adrian, the damage was already done.
Now by Adrian's bedside.
We believe there is going to be a miracle, through tonight. We're going to fight.
The Fajardos trust their faith.
We're going to continue fighting for his life, but at this time, at this moment, it's on God's hands.
Kenner police said a medical episode likely caused Mansour to lose control of the ice cream truck, but the investigation is still ongoing.